Hey everyone, welcome back. This is part 2 of How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. If you haven't watched part 1 yet, I'd recommend going back and starting there. In that episode, we covered Carnegie's remarkable life story, the poor farm boy who built an empire teaching people skills. And we walked through the first half of the book, the 3 core principles of handling people, and the 6 ways to make people like you. If you missed it, you'll find it right on the channel. Today, we pick up where we left off. We're going into the deeper material, how to win people to your way of thinking, how to lead without creating resentment, and why this 90-year-old book still matters in 2026. Let's jump in. This is the longest and most critical section of the book. 12 Principles for Persuading Others to See Your Point of View. I'm going to focus on the ones I've found to be the most life-changing. Principle number 1, the only way to get the best of an argument is to avoid it. Carnegie says something I'd frame and hang on my wall: you can't win an argument. Sounds paradoxical, right? But think about it. If you lose the argument, you lose. If you win it, you also lose. Because you've wounded the other person's pride. You've made them feel inferior. And they will never forgive you for it. They might not say it out loud. But in their heart, you've become the enemy. Even if you're 100% right. Even if you have all the evidence in the world. Don't argue. Find a way for the other person to discover the truth themselves. Or better yet, let them keep their opinion, if the matter isn't that important. Not every hill is worth dying on. Principle number 2, show respect for the other person's opinions. Never say, "You're wrong." When you tell someone they're wrong, you're launching a direct attack on their intelligence, their judgment, and their self-esteem, all at once. And what's the natural human response to being attacked? Defense. Resistance. A desperate scramble to prove you wrong, even if, deep down, they suspect they might be wrong. Instead, Carnegie advises saying, "I could be wrong. I often am." Let's examine the facts together. When you open with humility, the other person lowers their guard. They don't have to fight to defend their ego. And that's when the real conversation can begin. Principle number 3, if you're wrong, admit it quickly and emphatically. Carnegie tells a great story. One day, he was walking his dog in the park. The dog ran up to another dog, and the other owner got furious. Instead of making excuses or a half-hearted apology, Carnegie said, "You're absolutely right. This is entirely my fault. I have no excuse. I'm sorry." The man immediately softened. He even started defending Carnegie. "It's fine, dogs will be dogs. Normal stuff." When you admit your mistakes before the other person can even criticize you, you disarm them completely. They have nothing left to say. And usually, they become more generous than you'd expect. People tend to forgive those who can say, "I was wrong." They don't forgive those who always insist they're right. Principle number 4, get the other person saying, "Yes, yes," immediately. This is the technique Socrates used over 2,000 years ago, and it still works brilliantly today. Start with questions the other person will almost certainly agree with. First question, yes. Second, yes. Third, yes. After they've gotten comfortable agreeing with you, saying no to that final question becomes much harder. They've entered yes mode, and switching to no mode takes more psychological effort than most people are willing to invest. There's another principle I want to highlight: let the other person do a great deal of the talking. This ties back to the listening principle. Carnegie tells the story of the botanist at the dinner party again, how he said almost nothing yet was called the most fascinating conversationalist. The lesson? People don't care how smart you are. They care about being heard. And the best listeners are usually the most beloved. Principle number 5, let the other person feel that the idea is theirs. Carnegie points out that nobody likes being ordered around. Nobody wants to feel like they're just following someone else's commands. People want to feel like they made the decision themselves. And a great leader knows how to plant seeds so that others arrive at the idea on their own, rather than forcing them to accept it. He tells a story about an interior designer. This designer was working for a very difficult executive. Instead of bringing in finished blueprints and saying, "This is my design," he did something clever. He brought rough sketches and asked questions. Do you think a sofa or an armchair would work better here? How do you feel about this wall color? Should we try something else? Every time, the executive felt like he was part of the creative process. The result? He loved the design, because he felt like it was his. Principle number 6, dramatize your ideas. Bare facts aren't always enough. Sometimes you need to present them in a way that makes people pay attention. Carnegie shares a hilarious story about a salesman. He went to a supermarket chain executive to pitch his products. But instead of bringing reports and charts like everyone else, he did something crazy. He walked into the office and threw a handful of coins onto the floor. Coins scattered everywhere. The executive's jaw dropped. Then the salesman said, "This is how much money your company is losing every single day by not carrying our products." He got the deal. That's an extreme example. But the principle holds in every situation. Don't just talk. Show them. Make your ideas so vivid that people can't ignore them. Principle number 7, throw down a challenge. Carnegie says people have a deeply powerful instinct, the desire to win. The desire to prove themselves. And a great leader knows how to awaken that instinct. Instead of giving orders, issue a challenge. Say, "I don't think anyone could pull this off in a week." And watch what happens. Carnegie cites the story of Charles Schwab, one of America's greatest industrialists in the early 20th century. Schwab had an underperforming factory. He went there at the end of the day shift, asked the foreman, "How many units did your shift produce today?" 6, the foreman answered. Schwab picked up a piece of chalk, wrote a giant number 6 on the factory floor, and walked away. When the night shift arrived, they asked what that 6 was about. The day shift told them. The next morning, Schwab came back. The number on the floor had been erased, and replaced with a 7. The race was on. Within a week, that factory's output had tripled. Schwab gave no orders. He simply awakened a competitive instinct in every single worker. Now, Carnegie covers 12 principles in this section, and I've walked you through 7 of the most powerful ones. But there are 2 more I want to touch on because they're so often overlooked. The first is, begin in a friendly way. It sounds almost too basic to mention, doesn't it? But Carnegie proves its importance with a striking example. A lawyer had a difficult client, a man who was stubborn, argumentative, and had already fired 2 previous attorneys. The new lawyer knew that if he walked in and started discussing the case, the client's defenses would go up immediately. So he did something different. He sat down, smiled, and spent the first 20 minutes talking about the client's garden. The client loved gardening. He showed the lawyer his roses, his vegetable patch, his prized tomato plants. By the time they sat down to discuss the legal matter, the client was relaxed. He was open. And they resolved in one meeting what 2 previous lawyers couldn't solve in weeks. A drop of honey, Carnegie says, catches more flies than a gallon of gall. Begin with warmth, and the door opens. Begin with hostility, and it slams shut. The second is, appeal to the nobler motives. Carnegie tells a brilliant story about a landlord. He had a tenant who was threatening to break his lease and move out, 4 months before the contract was up. The lease clearly stated the tenant owed rent for those 4 months. The landlord could have threatened legal action. He could have gotten angry. Instead, he sat down with the tenant and said, "I've been a renter myself. I know how it feels when circumstances change and a place no longer works for you. But here's the thing, I've always believed you're a fair and honest man. And I'm going to trust your judgment on this. Here's the lease. You tell me what you think is the right thing to do." The tenant read the lease carefully. Then he looked up and said, "I'll pay the 4 months. It's what I agreed to." The landlord didn't win through threats. He won by appealing to the tenant's own sense of honor. Most people, Carnegie argues, want to see themselves as good and fair. Give them a reason to live up to that image, and they usually will. And there's one more principle from this section that I want to highlight, because it's so easy to overlook but so profoundly effective: try honestly to see things from the other person's point of view. Carnegie tells a memorable story about this. A woman was constantly frustrated with her neighbor's children, who seemed to be running wild, noisy, messy, always getting into her garden. She complained to her friend about it. Her friend listened, then said, "Let me ask you something. When you were 8 years old, did you always do exactly what adults told you to do? Did you never make noise? Never run through a neighbor's garden?" The woman was silent for a moment. Then she laughed. She'd remembered what it was like to be a child, the restlessness, the curiosity, the sheer energy that has nowhere to go. The next day, instead of yelling at the kids, she invited them over and let them pick flowers from a small section of her garden. They were thrilled. And from that day on, they treated her garden with respect. Carnegie sums up this principle with one sentence: success in dealing with people depends on a sympathetic grasp of the other person's viewpoint. Not agreement. Just understanding. When people feel understood, they stop fighting you. It's that simple. The final section of the book is about leadership. How to change people's behavior, whether they're employees, children, or a partner, without making them resentful or resistant. These are 9 principles Carnegie distilled from studying history's greatest leaders. Principle number 1, begin with praise and honest appreciation. Carnegie tells an everyday story that I absolutely love. An office manager had a secretary whose typing skills were terrible. But instead of saying, "Your typing is awful," he started with praise. He complimented her dress. He praised her hard-working attitude. He acknowledged how she was always on time. Then, gently, he said, "There's one more thing. If you put a little extra practice into your typing skills, I think you could become absolutely outstanding." The result? The secretary wasn't offended. She thanked him. And her typing skills improved dramatically. You see, when you start with praise, you're building a bridge. The other person knows you're not attacking them. You're on their side. And they're open to hearing whatever comes next. Principle number 2, call attention to people's mistakes indirectly. Don't say, "You did this wrong." Tell a story instead. For example, "I used to make this exact mistake. And here's how I fixed it." When feedback isn't aimed directly at the listener, they don't have to get defensive. They can learn from the mistake without feeling humiliated. Carnegie shares a golden rule: let the other person save face. It's one of the shortest lines in the book, but one of the most important. Losing face is one of the most devastating psychological wounds a person can experience. Never be the one who inflicts it. Principle number 3, praise every improvement, no matter how small. Carnegie said, "Abilities wither under criticism, they blossom under encouragement." This isn't a poetic flourish. It's a proven psychological truth. When you praise a child for trying, they'll try harder. When you scold them for failing, they'll become afraid and stop trying. This applies to children, adults, employees, everyone. Look for the good in people. Even the smallest glimmer. And say it out loud. You'll be amazed at the power of a well-timed word of appreciation. Principle number 4, talk about your own mistakes before criticizing the other person. This is one of the most elegant principles in the book. Carnegie recalls that before hiring his nephew as an assistant, he sat the young man down and said, "I know I'm not great at time management. I've made a lot of mistakes because of it. And I notice you're struggling with the same thing. How about we help each other out?" The nephew wasn't offended at all. On the contrary, he felt understood. Because someone as successful as Carnegie was also admitting to flaws. That made the feedback so much easier to swallow. When you say, "I've made this mistake too," you're standing beside them, not above them passing judgment. Principle number 5, ask questions instead of giving direct orders. Nobody likes being ordered around. Even kids hate it. But a question is different. A question opens a dialogue. It gives the other person a chance to contribute, to think, to decide for themselves. Instead of saying, "Do this," ask, "What do you think about trying this approach?" Instead of saying, "Stop doing that," ask, "How could we handle this differently next time?" The difference between a command and a question is like the difference between a punch and a handshake. Principle number 6, give the other person a fine reputation to live up to. Carnegie shares a wonderful story about a teacher. In her class was the most troublesome boy in the entire school. Every other teacher complained about him. But this teacher did something different. On the very first day, she announced to the whole class, "I've heard you're one of the brightest students in this school. I'm so glad you're in my class this year." That boy had never been told anything like that in his entire life. And he started behaving like a bright student. He didn't want to let that teacher down. A single sentence changed how he saw himself. And once that changed, his behavior changed too. This is the power of expectations. When you give someone a good reputation to uphold, they'll move mountains not to disappoint you. It works far better than any threat or punishment. Principle number 7, make the fault seem easy to correct. Carnegie says, make the other person feel that the mistake is easy to fix. Don't make the problem sound monumental and insurmountable. Say, "It's just a small habit. A couple of weeks and it's sorted." Or, "This isn't that difficult. I believe you can nail it in no time." When people believe they can fix it, they'll try. When they think it's too hard, they give up before they even start. And the final principle in the book, the one that ties everything together, make the other person happy about doing the thing you suggest. This isn't manipulation. It's the art of inspiration. When you want someone to do something, don't give orders. Show them the bigger picture. Show them how important their role is. Show them what success will bring them personally. When people feel like they're doing something meaningful, nobody has to push them. They push themselves. I know that hearing all this, you might be thinking, these principles are so simple. Doesn't everyone already know this stuff? You're right. They are simple. But simple doesn't mean easy. Let's be honest with ourselves for a second. In the past week, how many times did you criticize someone? How many times did you forget to say thank you? How many times did you interrupt someone to talk about yourself? What Carnegie wrote isn't hard to understand. But it's hard to do. And that's exactly why it's so valuable. There's something I want to be clear about, because it matters. How to win friends and influence people often gets criticized for teaching people to be fake. That it turns you into a sycophant, always smiling and saying the right things while feeling nothing inside. But that's only true if you read it the wrong way. Carnegie is crystal clear, these principles only work when they come from the heart. You can't pretend to care about people. You can't fake a smile. Sooner or later, people will see through it. And once they do, everything you've built collapses. Carnegie's goal isn't to teach you to act. It's to help you become a genuinely kinder person. Someone who actually cares about others. These principles aren't a mask you put on. They're muscles you train. The more you practice, the stronger you become at navigating human relationships. There are 3 big lessons I've taken away from this book. Lesson number 1, human beings are not logical creatures. We are emotional creatures. We're governed by pride, by the hunger for recognition, by the need for respect. You can have the most airtight logic in the world. But if you wound someone's feelings, your logic will never be heard. This is a truth that a lot of smart people don't grasp. They think being right is enough. But being right isn't enough. You also have to be right in a way that other people can accept. Lesson number 2, every single person is the main character in the movie of their own life. You are just a supporting actor. The person across from you has an inner world just as complex as yours. They have fears, dreams, insecurities, and desires. If you want to connect with them, you have to step into their world. You can't stand outside and shout in. The principle of putting yourself in the other person's shoes is the red thread running through this entire book. Every other principle flows from it. Lesson number 3, kindness is a skill, not an instinct. Most of us aren't born kind. We're born selfish, that's the survival instinct of an infant. But kindness can be learned. It can be trained, just like a muscle. And how to win friends and influence people is essentially a gym. Every principle is an exercise. Every time you praise someone instead of criticizing them, you're doing a rep. Every time you listen instead of speaking, you're doing another rep. Gradually, you don't have to try anymore. Kindness becomes second nature. And that's when the book has truly fulfilled its mission. Let me leave you with one more thought. Carnegie wrote this book during the Great Depression, one of the darkest periods in American history. People were losing their jobs, their homes, their savings. And yet, a book about how to be kinder to each other became an instant bestseller. Why? Because when everything else is stripped away, relationships are what we have left. Think about what that means for us today. We have more ways to communicate than any generation in history. Text, email, DMs, video calls. But are we actually better at connecting? Or have we just gotten better at broadcasting? Carnegie's principles force us to confront an uncomfortable question. When you strip away the technology, how good are you, really, at the simple act of making another human being feel valued? Your career will change. Your bank account will fluctuate. Companies will come and go. But how you treat people, that's the one thing you control every single day. And it's the one thing that determines the quality of your life more than anything else. Someone once asked Carnegie, late in his life, which of all his principles was the most important. He didn't hesitate. The ability to see things from the other person's point of view, he said. Everything else follows from that. That's why, 90 years later, this book still matters. Not because the principles are complicated, but because they're hard. And worth it. Dale Carnegie died in 1955 at the age of 66. He passed away from leukemia. But his legacy lives on, not just through his books, but through the millions of people who have applied his principles and transformed their lives. There's something fascinating about Carnegie that few people know. When he died, it came to light that he had quietly donated most of his fortune to charity. He didn't want anyone to know. That wasn't the act of a phony trying to win people over. That was the act of a genuinely kind human being. How to Win Friends and Influence People isn't a perfect book. Some chapters are a bit long-winded. Some examples feel dated. But its core principles, about sincerity, about empathy, about putting others first, are things that will never go out of style. In a world where we're growing more distant from each other, where face-to-face conversations are being replaced by text messages and emojis, Carnegie's lessons might matter even more today than they did in 1936. Before I wrap up, I have a small challenge for you, just like I did at the end of part 1. Tomorrow, when you're about to criticize someone, pause. Instead, find something, anything, to appreciate about them. Say it out loud. See what happens. You might be shocked at how differently that conversation goes. If you made it this far, through both parts, thank you. Genuinely. I know you could have spent the last hour anywhere else, and you chose to be here. That means a lot. If these episodes gave you something useful, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Ring the bell too, I've got more book deep dives coming your way. And if you know someone who could use a little help with their people skills, share this with them. You might change their life without even knowing it. Pick up a copy of this book. Read it slowly. Highlight the parts that sting a little. Those are the ones you need the most. The book is How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. First published by Simon & Schuster in 1936. This content is a personal reflection and summary of the book's core themes, intended to encourage you to pick up a copy and experience the full work for yourself. Here's the one thing I want you to sit with, from both episodes: being right isn't enough. You also have to be right in a way that other people can hear. That's the difference between being correct and being effective. And that difference? It changes everything. Thanks so much for listening. See you in the next episode. Take care.